Let's see if the 8GB RTX 4060 Ti is suitable for gaming in 2024. Furthermore, I will review this particular MSI Gaming X Trio model to see how well the cooler works and what kind of noise we can expect from it, if any. The Gaming X Trio has a massive cooler, just take a look at that. It is tall and it is long. The PCB ends just around there. It has one 8-pin power connector, and all that additional space is taken up by the cooler. Despite its size, the graphics card is actually not that heavy. And as you can see, I don't have a bracket installed right now, and it looks fine. It doesn't look like it's sagging even a little bit. So it should be fine without a bracket. Although a bracket is included with the graphics card. So you just install it like that to prop up the graphics card. However, due to how big this is, I don't like it. I'm going to use this thing instead. It is nice and discreet. I'll have it linked below if you are interested. Here's what the finished build looks like. This is my Be Quiet build powered by MSI. All the specifications are on the screen now. If you're interested, you can build one yourself using the links in the description below to purchase all the parts needed. And there is that GPU support. As you can see, it is very discreet, and that's why I like it. The system is absolutely silent when idle, and at the moment I'm stress testing it with Cyberpunk at 1440p. As you can see, the GPU load is at 99%. It's been running for a while. The room temperature is 19 degrees. That is 66, well, almost 67 degrees Fahrenheit. The GPU temperature stabilized at around 51 degrees. It's just jumping 50, 51. And the GPU fan is at 1100 RPM. The PC is still very quiet. I cannot hear the graphics card over the slight noise of the fans, and it is a very slight noise. Let me give you a little taste of that. This is a microphone. Have a listen. Yeah, at this point I'm pretty sure that you can hear more noise coming from outside my window because this system is that quiet. Did you know that your gaming PC can make you money when you're not using it? With the Salad app, you could earn up to $180 per month in rewards, such as games, gift cards, subscriptions to your favorite services, as well as other epic loot if you have an RTX 3060 graphics card or better. Contribute to global computing projects, such as AI processing during your gaming downtime by firing up the Salad app and turning your PC into a cash-generating powerhouse. Click the link in the description to get started now. Let's start with my current favorite game, Horizon Forbidden West. I'm enjoying it very much, playing through it. And yeah, one thing I would like to point out is that NVIDIA Reflex, you have to turn it off, because for some reason it doesn't play nice with frame time. Have a look at that. Right now, that frame time graph is, well, almost flat. And if I enable NVIDIA Reflex, have a look at what happens. Yeah, the gameplay is not as smooth as a result. Until this is fixed with a future patch, I recommend turning this off. As for the rest of the settings, we are at 1080p, very high preset. The only reason it says custom is because I've disabled all of these things, which I do not like. Also, field of view will be maxed out for all tests, and that consumes way more GPU compute power. I think that increasing field of view in this game is very nice because it doesn't give us a fisheye lens effect, it just shows us more on the screen. I'm using the AverMedia Live Gamer Ultra 2.1 4K capture card to record the gameplay, to make sure that there is no performance loss. The game is running very well on the i5-14400 CPU, and this GPU is doing very well. check it out. Native resolution over 60 FPS. So you can just lock it at 60 and enjoy it that way. However, as you can see, the VRAM is close to 8 GB utilization. So what I want to do is just teleport into one of the towns and see if we are going to run out of VRAM. And indeed, you can see those stutters happening. That is just, not enough VRAM. Some assets are being moved into RAM. So this is less than ideal, but the silver lining is that it appears that this only happens in like major towns where there's a lot going on. And yeah, there will not be any combat in these areas. So I guess it is kind of okay, because even running around, the stutters are not too bad. It is definitely not great to see such an expensive graphics card run out of VRAM at 1080p, but it is what it is. Still, with that said, I definitely recommend choosing a 16 GB version of this card instead of 8, because it will just give you better experience. As you can see, first game we try, we already see limitations of the 8 GB VRAM buffer, and it will continue happening throughout 2024 and beyond with future games. Not every game will be optimizing their graphics, especially at the maximum graphics preset for 8 GB. They will use more VRAM to stream better quality textures and effects. Let's fight these dinosaurs. Yes, nice. Let's go. Come here. Oh. Dodge. Dodge. The performance is absolutely fine when you are outside of the town. So yeah. It is a strange situation where even at 1080p we can't get great performance, great experience with such an expensive graphics card. Nvidia has definitely dropped the ball on this one. However, I can't seem to wonder if that 60 FPS, well, yeah, we're currently sitting at around 60 FPS, is that caused by the lack of memory? It would be interesting to check. Unfortunately, I don't have a 16 GB variant of this card to check that out, but, let me know in the comments below if you want to see that kind of comparison, and if there's enough interest, then I'll try to make that happen. One of the best features of the RTX 40 series graphics cards is frame generation. So let's see how well this graphics card performs with frame generation enabled, because remember that frame generation also consumes extra VRAM. With frame generation enabled, in this particular scene we see 60 FPS, 61. Let's disable it to compare. And as you can see, there is quite a bizarre behavior. Now we see the same scene, no frame generation, 66 FPS. So that's 5 to 6 FPS more than with frame generation. Yeah, that right there is caused by the lack of memory. So 8 GB is very limiting, even like you can't turn on frame generation in this game. Yeah, it is getting worse and worse for this graphics card with 8 GB. Let's turn frame generation back on and just run around with it a little bit. Check it out. 69. So it is inconsistent. Previously we've seen 60 FPS, now we're seeing 70. So it did add a few frames. But still, this inconsistency is happening because some of the assets have to be moved from video memory into RAM. Yeah, it is not ideal, and it will cause all sorts of troubles and problems in this game as well as other games. Game by game, problems will be different. Some will have popping textures, some will have like lower quality textures loading in instead of the higher ones that you've enabled. And what's funny is that we are at 1080p, we haven't even started testing 1440p. Speaking of which, let's test it. 1440p, frame generation disabled for now, and we are on very high graphics preset. Inside of this village, the FPS is not great, a little bit stuttery. Yeah, as you can see, that RAM usage is increasing because, you know, just a spillover from video memory, because it cannot contain all the graphics assets that are supposed to be in VRAM. And even when we are outside, problems still persist. Those little stutters happening every now and then. Yeah, this is less than ideal. Even though the game is playable, you know, when you pay a lot of money for your graphics card, you should expect better. And I certainly do expect better. Right, let's try and use DLSS, because that should help with VRAM usage a little bit. Let's enable DLSS Quality at 1440p, it looks nice. And right away our memory usage has dropped down to a more manageable level. No, there are still stutters here and there, but the FPS is much higher. It is 50 plus, sometimes 60 in less intense scenes. But still, I think we are limited by that 8 GB of memory still, because the performance is just not consistent. And when you are outside, the situation is not much better. Take a look at that. We still can't get that 60 FPS experience and stutters are happening. Yeah, RAM uses 15.5 GB. That is high. That should be lower. So it's not great, even though we still have like 800 megabytes in VRAM. A lot of assets are stored in RAM right now, which actually results in lower FPS than this graphics card is capable of. For the sake of curiosity, let's enable frame generation to have a look if that will help at all. And frame generation is not doing much for us in this game once more, simply because it needs more VRAM to run. And that's something we don't have on this 8 GB 4060 Ti. That's why you still see that pathetic 50 plus FPS. Let's try and lower the graphics preset to high to lower some of that memory usage. I just want to turn these things off once more. DLSS is still on quality and frame generation enabled. Look at that, it did improve the situation a little bit. So we are now at 70, 60 plus FPS. Yeah, this is better. But you know, if this graphics card had more VRAM, then we could still run this game on very high graphics preset, no problems. I'm curious, what will happen if we disable frame generation and lower that memory usage a little bit further? Yeah, we are currently at 60 plus FPS, so DLSS is still on quality though, so yeah. Without DLSS, this game is unplayable at 1440p, well, close to unplayable. My conclusion is, it is manageable, but you have to mess around with settings so much. And it's just this one game. I mean, we'll test some more games, but think about the games that will come out later this year and maybe next year. You know, that will introduce even more problems with VRAM and even more unnecessary compromises caused by this VRAM limitation. Lastly, I would like to check how this game runs at 4K resolution with DLSS set to balanced mode and frame generation disabled. Graphics preset is set to medium with depth of field disabled. Have a look at that. This is actually half decent. We get 50 plus FPS. Frame time graph is okay when we are outside of the city. But, you know, once we enter that or any other city in the game, I'm pretty sure that VRAM capacity will be maxed out. And we'll have a look at that in just a moment. I just want to test this out when I'm out and about, just, you know, running around doing missions. And maybe even fight some of these things. Check it out. Oh, one shot. Oh my god. I'm pretty powerful nowadays. Yeah. I'm already level 20, so... boom. Get some. Oh. Right. Missed. The combat wasn't too bad, but it wasn't as smooth as I would have liked. Inside of the town, the performance is actually not too bad. This game has some weird behaviors. Very strange. I was expecting to see more stuttering, but it appears to be fine. You have to make a lot of compromises to make this game run. Although I am surprised that we can still experience this game in 4K, and even on medium preset, it looks fine. Obviously, very high preset looks absolutely beautiful, but even medium, you know, it's fine. You can play this game like that. I wonder what will happen if we use an even lower DLSS quality. Let's do performance at 4K. Yeah, I'm not gonna turn on frame generation because it will just eat up that VRAM and, you know, cause more problems than it solves. Right. Huh. Check this out. We still get 60 plus FPS. Everything looks fine. So you definitely can make some tweaks to make this VRAM problem go away, but, you know, that is a lot of tweaking. My conclusion for this game is, I definitely would like more than 8 GB of memory, even if I am playing at 1080p. But let's see if we are going to run into similar problems in other games. Dragon's Dogma 2 is yet another recent release, and I do expect it to run well at 1080p with maxed out settings, so this is not your high quality preset. I've actually selected higher quality textures and I've increased everything that can be increased with the exception of resolution scaling. I left it on default. Ray traced lighting is enabled. As you can see, the game is warning us that we are going to use more memory than we have. Right off the bat, the performance is not great. And yeah, the image quality is not great either. At least our CPU is handling the graphics card pretty well, because if you don't know, in this game, the CPU optimization is absolutely terrible right now. Game developers have promised to improve it, but, you know, we're still waiting for the fix. And this is the performance troubles I was talking about earlier. Have a look at that frame time graph. It is all over the place and stutters are happening. Stutters galore. Right. Yeah, that's because I am using the i5-14400 to play this game right now. And yeah, when I'm on my i7-14700KF, Same game, same graphics cards. The performance is slightly better. It is more playable on the i7, but still it stutters. So game developers will have to address this issue because it is unacceptable. Look at that hair. It looks hideous. There's so many artifacts on that hair. Yeah, and we're at native resolution. TAA enabled. No DLSS, no nothing. Alright, since we've discovered that this is yet another game that is, limited by our VRAM capacity, 8 gigabytes is not enough, even for 1080p, let's go to high preset. That will, lower some of these settings. But let's see if we can even get this game to a playable experience on the 4060 Ti. Ray tracing is disabled. Okay, inside of the town, 50-ish FPS, but once again, I remind you that the CPU is the problem here, so we need to get out of the town to check the FPS properly. And once we are out and about, check it out. Around 70 FPS. There you go, that's what it takes to actually make this game playable at 1080p. On the 4060 Ti. This is so bad. 4060 Ti and you can't play this game at 1080p with maxed out settings. Come on. This is not great. I've increased the resolution to 1440p and I left the graphics preset on high because there's just no reason to test any other presets. The only other one is low and that looks absolutely horrific. It would have been nice to have medium preset, but even high looks kind of bad in this game. Check it out. Close to 60 FPS. Yep. It is playable, but still. It is stuttery. And I suspect that we are actually using more VRAM than we should. Let's see if we can improve this by using DLSS Quality mode. And yes, indeed, the FPS is now at 70 plus, so that will guarantee us at least 60 plus FPS experience consistently in most scenarios, because this is quite a graphically intense scene. Once again, we have to make compromises to make this game work at 1440p on the 8GB graphics card. But at least it's good to know that we can still use this graphics card to play this game at 1440p. Even though we have to use DLSS, it looks okay. At least not that much worse than TAA. This game doesn't do water well, no matter what you use. If you use native TAA or DLSS, it will still be crap. You know, that ghosting right there, it will persist. But I must say that it is better than it used to be. They fixed something, for sure, with one of the patches. Because it used to be way worse. It used to be way more ghosting when you are trying to, stand near the water and just walk around. It is actually more playable now. So hopefully they'll make it even better with future patches. It is only fair if we check how Dragon's Dogma 2 runs at 4K resolution on this 8GB graphics card. I think we should keep the graphics preset on high and DLSS on quality for now, but we'll see if we need to reduce that. Other than that, everything else is just the same as in the previous test. I can't quite call this experience pleasant. 50 FPS. It drops below 50 from time to time, but this is a graphically demanding scene. Lots of stutters, and I can see that we're using a lot of VRAM and a lot of RAM as well. So I'm pretty sure that some of the assets are actually spilling over into RAM instead of VRAM. So yeah, not a great experience, and I definitely would not want to play this game like that. So let's try and reduce the DLSS quality further. Let's try Balanced. The FPS is slightly better, although the stutters are still present. That tells me that this GPU is not built for this game, or maybe it's the other way around. However you want to put it, no. I don't think 8 GB is enough to play this game at 4K. Let's take it a step further and reduce the DLSS quality even more. Let's go for performance mode. And even on performance mode, the gameplay is still not smooth, and the experience is less than ideal. So yeah, definitely do not buy this graphics card to play Dragon's Dogma 2 at 4K resolution. Even if you're willing to compromise, you're still not going to have a good time. For a change, let's test a game that is well optimized and is designed to run on most current gen graphics cards as well as CPUs. This is HELLDIVERS 2, and we are at 1080p for now, native render scale, and graphics preset set to Ultra. Yeah, we are getting well above 70 FPS and even 60 plus during very intensive scenes. So I would call this experience very playable and enjoyable. Have a look at this. Oh my god. No, 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 no. We need to get out of here. Yeah, 4060 Ti has no troubles running this game at 1080p. But can it handle 1440p? That's the question. Let's find out. We are once again at render scale native and graphics preset on Ultra, but we'll try a different one if the performance is not great. Oh, we've got some enemies there. Let's pick up our stuff. So far so good, 60 plus FPS. Get some. Oh, what was that? What the hell? That failed to kill them. Okay, this experience is quite good. However, it's not the best. Could be better. If you are aiming to get something like close to 90 FPS for extra smooth experience in this game, then we definitely need to, lower those graphics settings, because in the heat of battle, when there will be a lot of explosions and 4 people throwing things, then, it's not gonna maintain 60 FPS. So let's reduce the quality down to high preset. Yeah, this is much nicer. Now we have 70 plus FPS, which means that we will maintain that 60 plus experience no matter what. And video memory is still okay, hovering at just above 6 GB, so this is fine. Oh, look at them. Look at them go. Oh, there was a little stutter there, but I think it was like a one-time thing. Other than that, I can see on the frame time graph that this game is pretty smooth. And I jinxed it. Another stutter just then. Yes. This game is so fun. Oh, look at that. Well, there's a lot of enemies. At 1440p, definitely use high preset. Still, it is a pity that this game does not have DLSS or frame generation, because I think those technologies would work really nice in a game like this. We're now at 4K resolution, high quality preset. But I can tell already that this is not going to be a good experience. Yeah. 30 to 40 FPS. Nah, this is not good enough. We need to reduce some of those settings. Oh my god. These hunters, dude. They just jump on you. Let's deal with this charger first. And then I can change the graphics preset. Yeah, I think this will be a good time to change the graphics preset. Let's reduce it to medium. Unfortunately, it didn't help as much as I hoped. We're still hovering at like around 40 FPS, so this is not going to be a good experience. Because have a look at this. Yeah, stuttering. My guess would be we are running out of video memory. Not great. Not great at all. Let's try and reduce that graphics quality even further. Although, you know what, I don't think it's worth it. Medium is fine. The game does look pretty rough on low. So instead, let's try render scale. Let's reduce it by 1 notch. Yeah, at least we are still at 4K, but resolution is lower now. And the experience is better. We are currently at close to 50 FPS. This is already at least playable in my opinion. You know, it wasn't that great when we had 30 to 40 FPS. That was terrible. But if push comes to shove, at least it's possible to play this game like that. Oh, not gonna get me. Nope. Oh, that is a charger. You know what we have to do to get rid of it? Yes. Nope, not gonna get me. Not my first radio. Let's try and get a headshot on it. Yes. Wasn't a headshot, so it did survive, but we do have a second shot. Boom. Yeah, that got him. Still, this is not the best experience, so let's try and reduce that render scale even further. Let's set it to quality. Should remind you that we're still on medium quality preset, and you know, it's close to 60 FPS now, so there will be dips to around 50, but you know, at least it's kind of playable right now, and it's easier to enjoy this game like this. Let's ruffle some feathers. Oh, I don't think they liked it. Oh, I'm standing too close. Oh my god. Got him. Yeah, I would say that it is definitely possible to play this game like that at 4K. It's not an ideal experience, but it is quite enjoyable still. Okay, so, you know, at least one of the recent games is actually playable on the 8GB 4060 Ti. No surprises there. It's HELLDIVERS 2. Pretty well optimized game. And even though I wouldn't recommend, you know, getting this card to play this game at 4K, it is doable with lots of compromises, but it is doable. 1440p is fine. 1080p, more than fine. let's move on to the next game. The only thing left to check is competitive gaming, so let's do that in CS2, 1080p. We'll start with a very high preset, but we'll also check out other presets as well as competitive settings. Yeah, this is pretty good, close to 200 FPS, even on non-competitive settings. And the game feels pretty smooth. So I guess there is at least one use of this graphics card that doesn't require too much compromise. You know, that's competitive gaming. Because pretty much every game that is built to play competitively, it will run on an 8GB graphics card, no problems. Oh, nice headshot. Now let's see how this game runs on competitive settings. The FPS is quite high, but I must say that the visibility is much worse. So I think, like for me personally, I would definitely do some tweaking to improve the visibility of, you know, objects in the distance. It's not great. Nice. But I must say that at this point we are limited by our CPU, because the i5-14400 is not the best option for that. If you are going to play competitive games, then you do need a better CPU. Yeah, as you can see, this graphics card is only working at like 30-40%. Which is suboptimal, and we're not seeing any difference in the FPS because the CPU just cannot produce more. You'll just have to get a better CPU for that. Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the older games, but it does have all the latest NVIDIA technologies installed and updated, so DLSS, ray tracing, path tracing, frame generation, the whole lot. And I would expect the 4060 Ti to run it smoothly at 1080p with all the graphics maxed out. So let's do just that. Let's enable ray tracing overdrive and check it out. However, I will not let it run DLSS on auto at 1080p, because if it drops below quality mode, that's gonna look horrible. Let's enable NVIDIA DLAA for now and see if that will do great, or if we'll have to reduce that to quality. And I wouldn't call this a playable experience, definitely not. 20 FPS. Horrible, horrible. So yeah. This graphics card is not built to handle path tracing, it seems. So, you know what? Let's try NVIDIA DLSS set to quality mode, because DLAA, for some reason, it eats up a lot of compute power in this game for some reason, so maybe DLSS on quality mode will do okay. This is better. FPS is closer to 40, but still, it is less than ideal because we're at 1080p and we are already using DLSS quality mode. Yeah, which means that we are losing quite a bit of fidelity. On such an expensive graphics card at 1080p, I definitely expect better. I think it's safe to conclude that we are not going to have a good time by using Overdrive RT settings in Cyberpunk 2077 on the 4060 Ti. So let's reduce that to Ray Tracing Ultra. Maybe we can get a good experience there, but we'll use NVIDIA DLAA. It is better, but you know what? Still, pretty terrible. 30 plus FPS experience. Let's reduce the graphics settings even further, because I'm determined to find, like, can we even use ray tracing in this game at 1080p? Let's do ray tracing medium, but again, I don't want to use NVIDIA DLSS quality. Let's use DLAA, because at least that will give us a good image at 1080p. And once again, we are at 30 plus FPS, and I'm starting to think that we are just hitting a performance wall with this graphics card in terms of ray tracing. Yeah, it appears so. Not great, but look at that VRAM usage. We're close to using 8 gigabytes of memory, or I don't know, maybe some of those assets have already spilled over into RAM. But let's say that we are willing to compromise and use DLSS Quality mode at 1080p. Let's see if that will help. Okay, this is much better in terms of performance. 60 plus FPS. It's not the best experience playing this game with DLSS set to quality at 1080p, but at least we are getting a playable FPS, and we still have some ray tracing enabled. This is ray tracing medium quality setting. With this kind of base FPS, we can actually now use frame generation to boost the FPS even higher, because if we have anything below 50, that's gonna, introduce a lot of extra latency and it's not gonna feel great. But as long as we have something like 60 FPS with DLSS, then it's fine. It is fine to enable frame generation. Let's do that. Okay. 100 FPS, but we are getting stutters. So it's not smooth sailing. Frame generation requires even more video memory to run. So, we've already maxed out VRAM capacity with ray tracing, and now we're adding frame generation on top of that. So definitely we have some assets spilling over from video memory into RAM, causing frame time to just bounce up and down and causing stutters. And I'm pretty sure that if we look around, we'll see some textures that haven't loaded in properly. Like, have a look at that. I'm pretty sure that, those posters are not supposed to look like this. That's because we don't have enough video memory. You cannot expect this 8 GB graphics card to provide you with an RTX experience, and by RTX I mean ray tracing. You can basically forget about having a good time with ray tracing on this graphics card simply because it doesn't have enough VRAM. The only thing left to do is disable ray tracing altogether. Let's set the graphics preset to Ultra, turn off any resolution scaling, and just, turn off these things, as well as motion blur. And frame generation, that has to go as well. And even like that, we can only squeeze out a 60 plus FPS experience out of this graphics card in Cyberpunk. This is 1080p on Ultra in a, reasonably older game. It's not like old, but it's been a few years. 50 plus FPS over here. And look at that GPU load. It's not consistent, so I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Maybe it's the CPU, quite possibly. But look at that memory. Still, we're using well above 7 GB, so not a lot left spare in the tank. It could be the case that we are getting these stutters and worse performance purely because we are out of video memory. I guess we'll have to use high quality preset. I don't see any other choice. And there you go. This is what I would call a good experience in terms of FPS, that is. Unfortunately, with this graphics card at 1080p, you still have to reduce the graphics preset quality down to high. Even though this is not the latest and greatest game, it's been well optimized over the years. That just shows that these 8 GB graphics cards, they are not welcome in 2024. We definitely need some changes in the industry, up that VRAM capacity to 12 gigabytes minimum for mainstream GPUs. I honestly hope that we won't see any new 8 gigabyte mainstream graphics cards out of any company in 2024 or 2025. God forbid in 2026. I hope that this trend will cease to exist. In conclusion, the 8GB RTX 4060 Ti graphics card is a very strange product that I cannot recommend, purely because one of the main reasons you would buy a new RTX 40 series graphics card is frame generation technology, and that requires extra video memory to operate, video memory that this 8GB model does not have to spare. Not only does it struggle to run the latest AAA games at 1080p resolution, but it also struggles with some older titles as well, such as Cyberpunk 2077. And the GPU itself is powerful enough to handle those games at those graphics settings. The only thing that holds it back is that 8GB memory capacity. The only niche use case I can think of is competitive games on competitive settings, but that is very niche, and basically you're just restricting yourself. You know, you're not gonna be able to play any AAA games on your PC with the 4060 Ti 8GB at all, just competitive games basically. And it doesn't have to be this way, because there is a 16GB version of this graphics card available. So I think if you're thinking about buying a 4060 Ti graphics card, then you should definitely look at getting a 16GB version instead. Luckily, until 7th of May, MSI offers a free £40 Steam wallet code if you are buying a 16GB RTX 4060 Ti. That also includes the 8GB version, but as I explained to you just now, it is just not worth it. Just get the 16GB version. The link is in the description below if you're interested in this offer. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then don't forget to leave a like. Comment below if you want to ask something or just start a conversation. I do read the comments and reply. And subscribe for more if you haven't already. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.